Buddy, welcome to the first day of the rest of our lives together. Day after the off-year elections. President's already spoken quite a bit this morning in a breakfast with Republican senators, and we got a Supreme Court hearing on arguments on the tariff case, and of course, government still shut down. And although that Republicans think the Democrats are just waiting to get past the election, I find it hard to believe the Democrats are going to be in a settling or caving mood after last night. So we'll talk about all of that. And also 2028, major developments last night across the board and minor regarding who the Democrats will nominate in 2028. All that and more here today on the morning meeting. Dan and Sean are here. We got to start with this. Before we get to anything else, put up number 123. This is the results here in New York City by neighborhood of how the candidates did, and of course Sean doesn't live in New York, but we'll extrapolate into Sean's neighborhood. There you see the top two. Upper East Side, that's where Dan lives. Upper West Side, where I live. Dan is with the powerful. Dan's with the billionaires.
I'm with the people.
No, you're not with the people. You're with the out of touch plutocrats. My neighborhood, Upper West Side, +5 Mamdani. Proud to stand with our comrades who voted the right way. Sean, if Mamdani and Cuomo were running in your neighborhood, would you be closer to the Upper East Side, do you think, or the Upper West Side?
We'd probably be a little West Side-ish.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's a street in Sean's neighborhood. Sean, what's it called? Millionaires Hill? Is that what it's called?
Mansion Drive.
Mansion Drive. All right, Mansion Drive. So anyway, I just say that by way of saying, Dan, yep. I'll be fine when the Bolsheviks come to the door and the doormen ring upstairs and say, Mr. Halperin, they're here for all your valuables. And yep. I'll say, comrade, I'm good. Whereas you're just gonna have to hand everything over.
Yeah, they're just gonna put up barricades. Don't worry.
Yeah. At this time of austerity here in New York City, I've got good news. Fairway and Green. You can see we're all wearing branded clothes from Fairway and Green. Thank goodness these are going to be available to you all, particularly for those of you who live in New York and who might be worrying about how you're going to make ends meet in the coming situation. I kid. 25% off Fairway and Green products site-wide. Use the promo code election25. Even though the election's over, the generous folks at Fairway and Green say, yes, you still have an opportunity.
Everybody's a winner.
Everybody's a winner. 25%. Go to twoway.tv/Fairway. Use the promo code election25 for a full 25% off everything on the site. And as you can see from what Dan and Sean, and they wearing it well, modern, professional, sharp, classic pieces that carry you effortlessly from boardroom to dinner. I'd say even diner, not just dinner. Delivers clean, sophisticated look you want on and off the course, refined, comfortable, and always in style. Dan, that's when are you going to a boardroom today? Because you could wear that.
No, I'm not, but yeah, and my homage to Hillary Clinton, day after, purple. Yep.
Purple, yeah. All right. I'm just running through here. All right, we'll do one more bit of business and then we'll get right into it. As always, if you're here on the two-way platform, like Nicholas or Jesse or Michael, Max, if you're here in the two-way platform, you want to get in the conversation, it's very simple. Just raise that yellow electronic hand, hit the raise hand button. If you're watching on X or on YouTube, whatever strong feelings you have about the election results, the shutdown, maybe even about the mayor-elect Mamdani, no smack in the chat. There's just no need for it. And if you'd like to, you can put stuff in the chat, and it should be imbued with peace, love, and understanding. The ascension of presumption of grace to all, even if you believe the mayor is an anti-Semitic communist, even then, please extend the presumption of grace to the mayor-elect. All right, another message from another sponsor, and then we get right to it. Our friends at Cozy Earth, also very generous, also having a big sale. Site-wide, get this, 40% off. 40% off, go to CozyEarth.com. Promo code Mark. It's basically Black Friday. It's right after Election Day from the folks at Cozy Earth. You can use the code. There's already a discount on the site, but if you use the promo code, you get 40% off the sheets, the blankets, the pants. Someone told me yesterday what was it they said I wasn't selling enough? Oh, the towels. I don't have the towels, which is why I haven't been. You guys have the towels?
I do not.
No.
Somebody came on our
blanket,
somebody came on our election coverage last night and said it's all about the towels. So again, go to CozyEarth.com, use the promo code Mark, 40% off. Get some towels, get some pants, get some sheets. The sheets, again, they're so soft, you'll cuddle with them. And speaking of cuddling, order yourself a bubble cuddle blanket. Again, cozyearth.com, promo code Mark for amazing 40% off. All right. The president, as we said, already spoke this morning. He was meeting with Republican senators. He did not take questions. He's doing an interview with Brett Baer later, and he told the press he would speak. He could speak on the at departure as he flies to Florida to give a speech. He could speak on Air Force One. He could speak to the press on arrival. He could speak to the press at the event, or then he's coming right back to the White House. So that's several more opportunities to speak to the press on departure from Florida, on Air Force One back from Florida, or on arrival at Andrews, or also at arrival back at the White House. So I would say he'll avail himself at least once of one of those opportunities, as well as the interview with Brett, also on Fox tonight. I'll be on with Brett, but Jesse Walter's full interview with Erica Kirk will air. So big night on Fox News Channel. As I said, the president talked. We'll play that for you in a minute. The vice president was at the meeting with the senators, and the president, he just did a little jibe to the vice president. You know, we've mentioned here before what confidence the president has and comfort the president has with the vice president that he lets him talk at photo ops. Normally, the vice presidents don't talk at presidential photo ops. And the president said something like, JD kind of chimes in every so often. JD did not say a word at that moment. Scott Bessent is attending the Supreme Court hearing. 2 cases being argued this morning, starting at 10 o'clock on the tariffs, and Scott Bessent will attend that. House remains out. The Senate's doing some nominations. Hakeem Jeffries, 12:30, press conference with the chair of the DCCC. And lots of conversations still occurring on potential shutdown. We'll talk about that in a moment. All right, Election Day. Overall, lots we could say about the results, but clearly, Sean, I'll apologize to you. I was wrong about the margins not mattering because I had no idea the margins would be so massive. And to me, it's a story of demography and geography. If the Republicans do as poorly in the suburbs and with certain demographic groups in the midterms as they did last night, they'll be wiped out. And there's a number of ways to illustrate that. Here's one way to illustrate that I think is quite striking, which is how Republicans in the key races did with young women. Young women. This is number 104, please. Kind of incredible. Young women, 81% for Mamdani, 80% for Cheryl in New Jersey, 78% for Spanberger. You saw it with the Hispanic vote, too, with the black vote, with the suburban vote. Again, it doesn't mean that these are blue states. It doesn't mean this will happen in every state in the country next year, but it could. It means Donald Trump did not consolidate them. And also, it means Democrats will have a lot of momentum. A few more things I want to show you, and then, gentlemen, turn it over to you. First, here's someone who believes Republicans got shellacked. The Republican candidate for governor of Ohio, Vivek Ramaswamy, 105, please.
We got our asses handed to us in New Jersey, Virginia, and New York City. Democrats swept all 3. There's 2 key lessons for Republicans. Listen carefully. Number 1, our side needs to focus on affordability. Make the American dream affordable. Bring down costs, electric costs, grocery costs, healthcare costs, and housing costs, and lay out how we're going to do it. And number 2, cut out the identity politics. It doesn't suit Republicans. It's not for us. That's the woke left's game, not ours. We don't care about the color of your skin or your religion. We care about the content of your character. That's who we are.
All right, here's someone who doesn't think it was as big a deal, apparently. 127, please.
Last night it was not expected to be a victory. I don't think it was good for Republicans. I don't think it was good. I'm not sure it was good for anybody. But we had an interesting evening and we learned a lot. And we're going to talk about that. And I'll say a few remarks. And then after that, I'll ask the press to leave. The press has been very, very nice to us. The last
Okay, Sean, what did the
us.
president learn last night, do you think?
I got to be honest. I spent most of last night analyzing the results of Dancing with the Stars. I did not see the elimination of Danielle Fisher coming. I thought
none of us.
I thought this was Andy Richter's week, so I don't have much to say on that. I was analyzing. It was a big night, so
you want to just leave all the time for Dan. You can't.
I do. No, look, my takeaways are a few. 1, candidates matter. 2, campaigns matter. 3, mechanics matter. The get out the vote in Virginia effort was pathetic at best. If you actually look at Southwest Virginia, where Trump ran up the score, it was almost like Winsome Sears forgot that part of the state existed. You look at Loudoun County, where both Youngkin and Trump did fairly well. She underperformed significantly and took down the rest of the ticket. The consultants who ran the races, particularly in Virginia, I don't know as much about Virginia, should go on a list, public list, and never be hired again. Every single one of them. The money, the turnout effort, the ads, everything sucked. And I think that Republicans should learn that. Trump was not on the ballot, and I know he likes to say it, but it's actually true. You look at where she underperformed yesterday. Horrible, horrible, horrible. On the flip side, when the president said that no one won last night, and I'll let Dan weigh on this, but Democrats now own Mamdani and Jay Jones. I was appalled that Virginia voters, and I know 355,000 of them voted early, would elect a guy who espoused the views that Jay Jones did and wants to be the top law enforcement officer in the Commonwealth. It was appalling. So I think that if that's fine, look, politics is about winning. Democrats had a good night last night. There's no denying that. But they also own the people that got elected. And that means they own Zohran Mamdani and they own Jay Jones.
Okay, we'll get to Mamdani next. But Dan, what's your overall take? And Sean and the president say it's mostly about these idiosyncratic states.
Sure.
What do you say?
I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't intentionally say that you're the sun that the entire world revolves around and then wash your hands of it. The problem is this all matches the surveys of Trump. I've said this and you guys have kind of tried to poo-poo this. He's underwater on the economy. He's underwater on inflation. He's underwater on the tariffs. He's underwater on immigration. Everything. Now people say, oh, the Democrats are worse. Well, in this instance, our candidates are not. So I agree, Winston Sears wasn't great, but Jack Ciattarelli went backwards massively.
You're right.
Hold
on one second. Dip into Morning Joe. Dan, keep going until they get it up.
Sure. So, I mean, I think one thing, Republicans tried to run 2024's races, and it didn't work. And what the Democrats did was focus on the economy, minimize social issues, except for abortion, and work in Trump. And all three of them, I'll say three being Virginia, New Jersey, and a little bit even in New York City.
Hold on, let's just listen to Cheryl, just see how she's doing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, Joe, I don't think people get New Jersey, but I do. And I've run here. This is my 5th election. I've drawn out huge amounts of people over the years. I had the largest red to blue swing in 2018, so I knew exactly what I had to do. It starts with connecting with voters. I spoke to thousands of people on the ground from everywhere in the state, and then we built a juggernaut of a campaign, a huge organization, the likes of which this state hasn't ever seen. But I was constantly amazed at some of the headlines. I know the New York Post at one point said, Cheryl up by 5 points. This is why that's actually really bad for her. I'm just looking at this thinking, guys, you report what you report, but I'm going to do what I do, and I'm going to bring out the voters, and I'm going to connect with people.
Dan, back to you. We'll get to her in a minute, but man, bouncing her step.
Yeah, Dan. No, I mean, and look, she should go take a victory lap. I mean, I was nervous. A lot of Democrats in DC were nervous. That margin stunned me. And in a really good way. I think you said it before, the suburban energy, the non-white working class voters that swung back. Again, what did Latinos say in 2024? Inflation, economic opportunity. What did young black men say? Inflation, economic opportunity. Trump is underwater by almost 20 points on both those issues. So if Trump was popular, they would have leaned into it, but he's not. So it's a problem.
And Dan, is Trump on the ballot next year?
No, he's not. Well, yeah, actually, I disagree. Well, Trump will make himself on the ballot.
More than he did this time.
He makes it. No, even now.
Well, what I'm saying is he didn't campaign in Virginia and New Jersey.
But
he
Mark,
will presumably campaign.
Every day is all about Trump because by Trump's choice, it is the attention economy, right?
Understood.
He's
but
the master of it.
What I'm saying is he's not literally on the ballot.
Oh,
and
sure,
the history of Trump since 2016 is he can't drive people to turn out.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. But I also go back to this, and I've said this repeatedly. Trump barely won in 16, he barely lost in 20, and he barely won in 2024. For all the MAGA people who said he had a blowout, he did not. You want to know what a blowout is? Look at New Jersey and Virginia. You win by 10 points, you blow out. He didn't win a single swing state by 10 points.
If the Democratic Party is going to have the coalition of the ascendant and suburban voters,
Right.
they're gonna win.
But that said, if I'm a Democrat, this is the best day since 2020 that we've had. You could argue maybe 2022 when like we did less bad than we thought we would do, but I wouldn't get too carried away. Like now we're going to have to deliver, these candidates are going to have to show up. But I also would say this, you had two moderate candidates that won. One of the things we were saying was that the party energy for the moderates was not there. Well, it turned out it was. It was. And I think, Sean, the attacks about a socialist in New York City, Mamdani got 50.5%. Cuomo and Sliwa combined got 49.
That to me, by the way, I said margins would matter. That's a big deal. The idea that he got a majority, not a plurality, matters.
But it also means about half the city, even in New York City. So, I mean, look, we need his
good
energy.
for you guys.
Yeah.
No, okay, all right, let's talk about Mamdani. Yep. Here's a couple covers. 110. This is the New Yorker cover coming out, digital first, and then people get hard copy. I don't know who you people are, but you'll get this in the mail. Here's him on the subway. Here's maybe a less positive. This is the New York Post Wood, the cover of the New York Post. The red apple. On your marks, for those watching, listening on the podcast, Marks is spelled M-A-R-X. On your marks, get set. Zoe, socialist Mamdani wins race for mayor. Guys, I was stunned at the way he started his speech, and I was stunned at the bitterness he showed towards Andrew Cuomo and towards President Trump. Let's play some of that and then talk about his future. This is some of the Mamdani speech, number 113, please.
The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said,
start with quoting Debs, always a unifier. The Debs quote.
Of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty. I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name.
I've never heard a line like that.
Page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few.
Okay. He went on to pick a fight with the president. Dan, first, just on the Cuomo thing, he didn't say, congratulations, race well run. Cuomo did not run a particularly negative campaign by the standards of modern campaigns. And to not say, I hope he'll help me build this great city we both love, but to say I'll never say his name again. At the same time, Bill Ackman is reaching out on Twitter. What does that say to you about Mamdani's future as mayor with that attitude?
Look, I think we talked about this up until last night. He was not bitter about people who had not endorsed him, and he kept saying, I welcome everybody. Look, for one night, he popped off. I mean, Trump pops off all the time. I think it's not, what you would necessarily want, like in my politics, but I get it. Right. He took a lot. He was accused of being, hanging with terrorists, everything, that he was anti-Semitic, all this. And he stuck his chest out for one night. The challenge for him now is now you got to go govern, and you need the governor and you need the state legislature. So the big question now is how does he do? And is he able to accomplish this? I think we'll see.
Well, Sean, just ask you about the president and then take it where you wish. The president wants to fight with Mamdani every day. Pretty clear. It looks like Mamdani wants to fight with the president, at least a lot. He went after him so hard last night. Are those two guys just going to have their own running show because it serves both their interests?
I think to some degree, I would actually, the thing that, you joked once about Putin being arrested in Alaska. I wouldn't be surprised to see some stunts where Zohran Mamdani tries to, the president lands in New York and says, I'm asking the NYPD to, like that's the kind of like,
or for ICE to try to arrest Mamdani.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, there's like, I think they're going to go to like all sorts of like new levels of schoolyard stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a bunch of these stunts now escalate because Mandami, like the one thing that I would say is, first of all, he's got a right, and the guy won. You do what you want, right? Fair enough. But at some point, the question is, what serves your long term interest? What serves the long term interest of New York City? And I think being a 32-year-old child, man child, is probably not the best for your future. Trump is 79, 80 years old. He is who he is. Um, but I think that Mondami, if he wants to have a future, if he wants to lead a movement versus being a one-term candidate, then he better think long and hard about, to your point, like the Cuomos are still have a lot of connections, have a lot of power in that city. So I think it would have been smart to say, look, we had our fun, blah, blah, blah. I want to have, I mean, like that just is smart politics.
Yeah.
Um, and so I will say that it's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out because again, he has a right to do it. He won, but I'm not sure that when you're that young and inexperienced, it's the smartest move.
Yeah, and the job's hard enough without picking a fight with Trump. The job's hard enough without not reaching out to Jewish New Yorkers in his speech in a way to try to show them that he understands their fears.
But he did all fall. I mean, look, he did. A lot of Jewish people didn't buy it,
you're minimizing the moment as far as I'm concerned. I say with respect, like this is not just one night. This is the night where he's got the world watching him, and he chooses to attack Andrew Cuomo bitterly, to pick a fight with the president of the United States, and to not reach out to Jewish New Yorkers. It's just he can do all three going forward and do it differently, but that's not a normal night. That's the night when the world's watching.
In the Trump era, it's a totally normal night.
Well, but
I mean, guys, you guys are talking like we're in 2015. Like everything. Is Trump gracious when he wins half the time? Are Republicans gracious about stuff now? Like these are the rules.
No, I don't.
Newsom is putting a WWE.
Yeah.
Thing
all right. Let's
Trump getting slammed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
You created the new world.
Okay. And by the way, I started this conversation by saying he has a right to do it. Like this is not.
So should Trump reach out to Democrats when he wins and be gracious and say, I want to work with Joe Biden? He says, go arrest everybody.
No, right. And he tried that the first time and then they impeached him. So I think
I'm almost laughing at you guys talking like this.
Okay, but
no one behaves like this anymore.
Okay,
Nobody.
And I was going to say there is a through line. If you listen to what Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger did, there's actually they didn't maybe go as far as Zohran Mamdani did.
That's their brand. His brand is in your face.
But I'm just saying, look, again, he has the right to do it.
All right. Last night was a huge night for 2028. First of all, I think we're going to go back to seeing Spanberger and Sherrill touted as presidential and vice presidential candidates. And if they govern the least bit effectively, the media will be touting them. It's like because their margins of victory. The media will be touting them,
then comment how they govern.
Well, both. But I mean, we'll go back to where they were before when this race started, which is darlings of the press. Lots of appeal to a lot of Democratic donors. Then Shapiro was very aggressive last night, touting the Supreme Court victories for the Democrats in Pennsylvania. Wes Moore did some cable news, and there's one other I'm missing. And then of course AOC and Gavin Newsom. But there's one other I'm forgetting. Maybe I'll think of it. Gavin Newsom and AOC were extremely aggressive last night. Gavin Newsom because of the overwhelming passage of the proposition on redistricting, and AOC doing cable interviews, and of course here in New York with her chosen candidate winning. Here, first is Gavin Newsom. Two videos. First is 118, please, just talking about what the victory means for the whole country and for the party.
For the Democratic Party, a party that is in its ascendancy, a party that's on its toes, no longer on its heels, from coast to coast, sea to shining sea. But it was not just a victory tonight for the Democratic Party. It was a victory for the United States of America, for the people of this country and the principles that our founding fathers lived and died for. And so we're proud. We're proud here in California to be part of this narrative this evening. We're proud of the work that the people of the state of California did tonight to send a powerful message to an historic president. Donald Trump is an historic president. He is the most historically unpopular president in modern history. In every critical category, Donald Trump is underwater. He promised to make us healthier. He promised to make us wealthier. We're sicker and poorer. And he fundamentally understands that. Why else? Why else would he call Greg Abbott saying he's entitled to 5 seats? Why else is he trying to rig the midterm elections before one single vote is even cast? He understands.
Parenthetically, I'll just say that if the Democrats do continue to do as well with Hispanics in Texas as they did in New Jersey last night, that Republican redistricting is not going to yield them 5 seats. All right, so that's Gavin Newsom. And again, he's an aircraft carrier. He's one of the only people who possibly might run who is an aircraft carrier. And he's also, as Dan said, playing now by brand new rules introduced to the national town square by Donald Trump. Here's a video, kid you not, that Gavin Newsom tweeted out yesterday, 1:24.
The prodigal son! He didn't miss that! How fitting! A steal! Oh, demon! Sweet chin music to the boss! And the battling boss of the WWE! Just got his pedigree checked! Checking on the referee to make sure he's okay. And look at this! What? Wait a minute. What's he gonna do? Wade Barrett looking to put Orton through the table. Looking to drop the arm. Oh, wait a second. Ripley. Gallows into the post. Rhea Ripley's collecting. Luke Gallows. Oh my God. Oh my God.
All right. There's
Racist
AOC.
and offensive. Just
There's-
racist.
There's
and
AOC.
offensive.
Lastly, here's AOC. Again, she did MSNBC. She did CNN. Here she is, 119 on MSNBC last night.
Had these victories, I mean, is there room in the Democratic Party for both moderates like Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger and also a Zohran Mamdani?
Well, I think it's not just a message about Democrats. It's a message about our entire country. I think that Americans are appalled by what they are seeing coming out of this administration. They are appalled by the cowardice of Congress, by these Republican majorities in the House and in the Senate. I think that they see Donald Trump now for who he is, which is a handmaiden to billionaires and a handmaiden to corporate interests that are making working class life impossible in America. And I think that they want to send fighters in every single pocket of this country to fight for working people to make life affordable and safe for all.
Sean, I think we all are going to agree that both AOC and Gavin Newsom had huge nights last night for their aspirations. I'm wondering how big you think that is, and violate my rule and ask a 2-part question. Who else who wants to run potentially in 28 had a good night last night, and why?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, this term moderates is just ridiculous. The idea that Abigail Spanberger, who voted with Pelosi over and over again, who supports all this trans stuff, who was silent on J. Jones, she is not a moderate. And the press is doing everything they can to make her that. I think AOC, the funny part is I know I found her a little jealous last night. She was being asked, is Mamdani a leader in this? So no one actually said, are you one of them? And I thought that maybe that was just me, but I felt like she actually should have gotten more credit for Mamdani and for what she's done. And I felt like the questions were more like, do you think he's now the leader, not you? The idea that Gavin Newsom is using the word rigged election, again, a little funny on that front. I would say he had the best night of everybody, though, because it was a test of his where I think he can helpful is you can talk about the money raised. You can talk about the operation, the mechanics of what he put together, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I'm saying I think the appeal to Democrats when you go out now and go on that tour, it's like, look, I did it. Josh Shapiro, the idea that anybody even knew that Pennsylvania's 3 Supreme Court justices were up or gave him any credit, I think would be far-fetched. I think Gavin had like the best night last night, and then everybody else is a distant second.
Can we play 119 for a sec, please? It's just
Sure.
it's just 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's AOC on MSNBC because what she says here I think is key for people to understand.
Who is the face of the Democratic Party at this point? Is it Zohran Mamdani? Is it Abigail Spanberger?
It's funny, this is a similar debate that I saw happen when I was first elected. And at the end of the day, I don't think that our party needs to have one face. Our country does not have one face. Our assignment everywhere is to send the strongest fighters for the working class wherever possible. In some places, like Virginia, for the gubernatorial seat, that's going to look like Abigail Spanberger. In New York City, unequivocally, it is Zohran Mamdani.
So, I mean, I wanted to play that because I think the two people had great nights. I agree about AOC and Gavin Newsom, and they are the loud confrontational where the base's energy is. And in a primary that matters, they're going to start in the pole position. They're going to raise money. They're going to have volunteers. The other side is someone like what I'll say is the show not tell caucus, which is Shapiro, Bashir, Whitmer. Their heads are down, and they're going to turn around and say, I am popular in my states. I get stuff done. And I can put the coalition together to win. And when you hear someone like AOC said it's about finding the right candidate to win in certain states, and you look at the margins that the two women won by, if you're a moderate, you're Rahm Emanuel and others, this gives you some courage now, which is the real world isn't X. The real world is out in the country. And if you focus on the real lives of real people, you have a chance. And so I think both camps got what they wanted out of last night. And now we're going to have this kind of, combustible energy of the two sides going at it. As long as the party says we're with the winner, I'm good. It's when it says, if you win, I'm out, then it's a problem.
By the way, I will say, as I said, on that MSNBC clip, that goes back to the point I made. I think she is a little jealous that she's not getting credit for what she deserves. And on the Newsom clip, I will just say to the extent that anyone cares what I think about Gavin Newsom, that was the first clip that he actually sounded like a politician and not the sort of what he's been able to freewheel later. I mean, like he actually sounded more scripted, more of a politician than he ever has before in that clip last night. And that's the wrong way to go.
I think if you're AOC, and I've said this to you guys for months, you go now, meaning you run this cycle in 28 because the world by 2032 could be a very different world. Right now, you have the energy. Mamdani's too young, etc. When you get an opportunity, you go. That's why I think she's going to run.
I continue to urge you to go watch. She's done, I believe, 3 hard interviews on camera in her career. Go watch all 3.
She's got 3 years to do a few more.
Go watch.
Well, but also, I mean, you may not believe them. I mean, that's the thing. These guys all believe their own consultants, and if she thinks she can win,
She's going to have the money. She's going to have the energy. She's got ideas. I mean, there you go.
Okay, I'm going to get you those interviews. 2 more topics we'll do quickly and then get to your questions. So again, if you're here on the platform, you want to be in on the conversation, please raise your hand. The shutdown continues. The president met with Senate Republicans today. He urged them to abolish the filibuster. He suddenly, I guess, figured out that he can't pass anything because he can't get 60 votes for anything. It's not just about ending the shutdown. John Thune looked poker-faced, I would say, and a little forlorn as the president, once again, in front of all the Republicans, said, get rid of the filibuster. There's a lot of talks going on. It could end. It might not. But obviously, the economy is a big part of this conversation. Scott Bessent said something the other day that the New York Times noticed, 121. This is kind of an extraordinary thing for a Treasury Secretary to say. He's trying to get the Fed to cut rates. He said, I think that there are sectors of the economy that are in recession. He said that on CNN on Sunday. He described the economy as being in a period of transition because of a pullback of government spending to reduce the deficit. And of course, that the shutdown, there's also a stop there. Good economic news, 125. Private payrolls rose 42,000 in October. And Sean, is the shutdown ending or not?
So let's go in order. First of all, I agree with the president. Like, if any Republican that doesn't think the Democrats will get rid of this filibuster is nuts. There were only 2 Democrats that held out last time. They got 49 votes to repeal it. Those 2 Democrats are gone. There'll be 2 new Democrats that will support it. Republicans are stupid and short-sighted if they don't think. I don't look. I'm a fan of the filibuster. But I'm just telling you, if you don't think Democrats are going to do this, the president was absolutely right this morning. They are going to run the table on, making DC a state, packing the court. Every one of these Republicans that's holding on to tradition needs to get a clue what's about to happen to them. I don't think the shutdown's going to end this week. I think next week, once airline traffic really screeches to a halt, and that's going to start, I think, next week. that's going to really start to have an impact. And the SNAP benefits, again, you got some money going out the door, but not all. Like we're getting this point next week where I think it's really going to crescendo, and that's going to be the big thing. I think, by the way, on the Bessett stuff, that is an important note, right? The idea that there's concern about what the lack of government spending in these areas. And I wanted to say one more quick thing that is interesting about the jobs front. I was in a Uber the other day, and this guy was telling me about he's part of this council, the gig drivers and all this stuff. They believe this Waymo driving system where you get in and it's driverless. He was telling me about all the cars that are coming in, and his point to me was, government folks better get a clue that all these gig jobs are going to go soon too, because the driverless cars are going to take over, and AI is going to take over this. I think that's one of the things that the president's going to have to face on this term, which is you're creating all of this investment in the U.S. and potential jobs, but the AI intersection of that is coming soon, where they're going to start replacing people, everything from Uber and Lyft drivers to other menial functions that can be done by AI. And I think that happens his term.
Dan, is the shutdown ending?
I think it's going to end next week. Yep, I do. I think both sides have an incentive now to move on. I think, I've said this about Scott Bessent a couple of times recently. He's becoming quite a politician. The idea that the reason we are partially in a recession is simply because of government spending being reduced is absurd. I mean, it's like the tariffs never happened. There is no sitting president. Like, how many earnings calls do you hear where CEOs talk about the uncertainty around the tariffs and the administration? Those are people who can't lie to shareholders. Right. So Bessent is becoming such a politician in how he talks now. It is somewhat comical. But again, if you're Trump, guys, for 2 months, we've got on this every morning. How many times we talk about the economy? It's foreign policy. It's every other shiny red ball Trump can throw out there. It's not where voters are. And they're becoming disconnected.
Yeah, the exit polls showed that. All right, lastly, again, the Supreme Court 20 minutes is going to do arguments. Josh Gerstein has the best curtain raiser anybody written 122 in Politico about the justices, and points out that the conservatives kind of have competing sensibilities. They like the conservative justices love broad executive power, but they're also have been wary of extending that power to economics. And so one thing Josh has to look for in the questioning is the questioning going to be about this is an economic thing or is it about a national security thing related to fentanyl and other national security issues? So, Sean, who are the one or two justices do you think will decide this?
Well, let me just back it up a second. I think where Josh misses the point on this is that he keeps talking about where a lot of people are focusing is this quote broad executive power. The problem is that trade constitutionally is a legislative power, that the legislature through IEPA has given the president certain responsibilities and certain roles. So he's missing the point here. And this is where I think a lot of people are going to miss how the court looks at this. If you're a strict constructionalist, you look at the Constitution and say, what article does that power lie in? And right now it's an Article 1 power. So they're going to say, great. Congress didn't yield that authority to the president under IEPA. It didn't happen. If you look at what IEPA grants, it doesn't grant this. And so they're going to say, yes, we believe the executive has the right to do a lot of stuff, but in this particular case, the Constitution is clear. So I think ultimately watch the questioning on why they believe they have it's not even, it's of the six conservative justices. Who hones in on that delineation? What emergency do they think matters? Where in IEPA do they have this power? There's two things at stake. China, Canada, Mexico, fentanyl. He can use the IEPA for that, I think, fairly unequivocally, saying that that was an emergency, a threat to the United States. But the Liberation Day, the broad use of tariffs, that's where they're going to, I think, have a problem in saying, where do you guys think that IEPA does this? So I would watch the questioning for any of them because I don't think it's an executive power issue. It's a legislative issue that they're going to question. Where do you think you get this from?
Dan.
I think John Roberts and Kavanaugh, I think are the ones to watch. I think this has been one of the more fascinating things about this court, often siding with Trump, is their reasoning is very short because I think they're very aware that if they are explicit in their rationale, it will be hung around their necks when Democrats bring similar cases before the court. And I do believe that they don't want to stop Trump. But boy, the precedents they are going to start setting that a Democratic administration, and they'll try to find a way to say they're apples to oranges, but they'll humiliate themselves. And so I think in this one, to your point, Sean, they're going to try to split the difference.
But they're not. But that's the thing is that
and the Liberation Day.
Right, but I don't think it's splitting the difference. You actually look at the law and where what IEPA gives the president. They're going to say, yes, you have the right to do it here, but we don't think you have the right to do it here.
Yeah,
I actually think that this could be
all of this with China, all of this.
Well, that's
about fentanyl.
The president has been granted in the past broad discretion to define what an emergency is, right? And so.
When Pete Buttigieg defines an emergency, here you go. This is what Democrats are sitting there going like this.
But the difference, Dan,
put it in writing for us.
The point is, when you talk about broad executive powers, right? So the president has very broad executive powers. But in this case, when you're using IEPA as the basis of that, that law limits what you can use it for. So they're going to say yes, but so I think you could actually have a much bigger split on this. It's not just one or two justices, because I agree with you on Roberts, but I also think Amy Coney Barrett. Yep. And I wouldn't be surprised if Alito says, hey, look, I'm with you, but the law says the following. So here's where you are right and here's where you're wrong. I wouldn't be surprised to see a bigger split than most people are expecting.
All right, we'll see in 20 minutes. Brian, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Dan and for Sean.
Yeah, I'm in Minneapolis. And quick question. As we look to 28 with JD most likely being a Republican candidate, obviously the data is very clear that Republicans don't perform as well when Trump's name's not on the ballot. On the other side, there's a lot of Republicans and centrists that are, never Trumpers. And my question is, what is the bigger lever for 2028?
Can you keep going? And Brian, can you just, the bigger level in terms of, I'm sorry, I'm like, can you just dig a little further?
Yeah, I mean, are there more folks who are never Trumpers, centrists and Republicans, or are there more folks that, are going to turn out? Yep.
So I think what happened between 2016 and 2024 is that a lot of people who said, I'm a traditional Republican, I don't like Trump's, tactics and some of his verbiage, et cetera, I can't vote for him, I'm a never Trumper, came to realize over the 8 years that this culture war, that what really matters. They saw Biden, they saw what the media did, they saw what corporate America did, and they said, all right, you know what? I still may not like some of the way that Trump describes things or whatever, but the fight, the bigger, broader fight is too existential to sort of sit on the sidelines or to hold my nose. And that I now get why Trump's doing it. So there has been, I think, a massive shift. And if you go out and you listen just to the community that comes on board this show, didn't vote for Trump, now I did, right? I voted for Clinton, I voted for Obama, I now vote for Trump. What the media, corporate America, and the Democratic and the broader left movement have done is taken a lot of people off the sidelines and say, you better be in the game. I'm almost finished, by the way, with Alex's book about her fight, and what happened in the community in New Canaan. It's a great example of what happened. There's a great, massive awakening over the last 8 years at what we're dealing with and why. And I think that never Trump thing has gone from this big to that big.
Dan.
Brian, I think it's a great question. And I've talked about this here for a little bit, that I don't know where the country's going to be in 3 years. And that traditionally after 12 years or 8 years, you kind of want to go in a different direction. I agree with Sean that Trump was the perfect candidate for 2024. Coming out of COVID, economic frustrations, Biden being super old and kind of not, being seen, Kamala Harris with all her struggles. 2028 is going to be very different. I don't know if JD Vance is going to be Trump 2.0 or 3.0, however you want to phrase it. It's going to be Trump's fourth term. He can't separate himself. So if this holds, and the middle starts to say, we're tired of this, we want to go in a different direction. This isn't about trans anymore. It's not about the border anymore, right? Like it's closed. Like Trump's a little bit of a victim of his own success. What are the issues that animate voters in 27 and 28? I think somebody will come at JD Vance from both sides because they will be the fresh new energy. And they will make the argument of here's where Trump is right, but here's where I think, we need to go in a different direction. It could be that Trump still has a lock hold on the party and no one's getting around Trump. But I could see a path where Trump is not popular and JD Vance, boy, ask Mike Pence what happens when you cross the beast.
Yeah, but I think the difference between Pence and JD is stark, right? Pence was an establishment pick, picked for that reason because he really helped with shore up that evangelical concern that exists. JD Vance is born of Trump, and there's a lot more comfort in handing the mantle off to a guy like JD than there with all due respect to Mike Pence. I don't think that people would have ever thought that you're handing the Trump mantle, the MAGA movement to Mike Pence.
Brian,
here's
thank
the thing.
you.
4 years ago, JD Vance was not all on board.
I know. No, you're right. But even after 4 years,
I just
Mike
think the
Pence
problem is, can JD Vance legitimately get up there? Let's say there's 5 issues in 28, right? Well, I'm going to just whatever they are. Can JD Vance get up there and say, here's where Trump's wrong on 4 of them?
No, you don't have to, though.
Sean, right now, he's 25 points underwater. So maybe it changes. But my point is, if that's the environment, Vance is effed. He's effed.
Trip, are you able to unmute?
Somebody else comes in?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, welcome in. Glad to have you here. Tell folks where you are and what's on your mind.
I am standing at the 72nd Street, 2nd Ave subway.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cuomo country.
Cleaner than I thought.
God, I thought Cuomo had a shop, but I guess not. No, first time, long time.
Welcome in.
I had a question. What's been really hard is on the left side, especially with the Virginia gentleman getting elected who sent the text, it's starting to really create, and I know everyone says boogeyman Trump, but the left is really coming off these days as just not having American traditional values of what I grew up with. And I'm just curious on if someone can get elected saying those types of things, then what's stopping the whole machine from taking it all over? So I'm just curious, and I know Dan said this earlier, that was, have you taken back on, just because Trump's doing it, we can do it. But Trump's a singular figure. This is now becoming, you're seeing this now with a multitude of left candidates. So,
well,
I'm just...
Yeah, I think, Trip, the challenge is, because this is a common theme, Trump's a singular figure. So Jay Jones said something really stupid, right? We talked about Tucker Carlson yesterday, saying things that some people would say, or platforming things that are stupid, right? We talked about the text messages. We talked about Access Hollywood. The country is becoming numb to these scandals that used to knock candidates out cold. But now, right, Republicans say, well, that just Trump is Trump. Trump can be not gracious on the stage. Trump can make fun of paraplegics. Trump can make fun of John McCain because he's Trump. Guess what? The country has become numb to it. So now when JD Vance says, well, boys are boys in the locker room on a text exchange, and Democrats say, oh my God, how do you not scream? Look at what you're saying.
No,
how can you not scream?
I'm not saying Don is right either. I'm more saying for the sake of the country, and I got 2 young kids. I see a future that's not bright.
You sound like every Democrat talking about Trump the last 10 years.
Dan, what's hilarious, honestly. So my wife, one of the bravest people ever, one of the original, red hat, 16. I was chanting Hillary in the streets. Obama was one of my favorite presidents. Bring me to now, I'm one of those red pilled, moved all the way over, but I'm still on that stratosphere, that line. And I want to, I think Mark said it perfectly. Yeah, Mamdani is, an outright, Democratic socialist, but we still want the city to do well, right? So
totally.
I think at the end of the day, what I'm trying to really get at is forget the politicians. I'm worried about us as people.
Well, you know what it is, Trip? And this is why I keep saying, if you're someone like Josh Shapiro, the marketplace may be getting frustrated with these types of candidates. So after 12 years, boring and moderate and temperate, and like, I don't do this. So Gavin Newsom and AOC may disqualify themselves because they're trying to beat Trump in a way. And the country's like, enough.
Yeah. Tripp, thank you. Grateful to you. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being part of Two Way. James Blair, Deputy White House Chief of Staff in charge of politics, just tweeted something out. I'll just read it. Not a surprise, but he was bickering with some Democrat on Twitter. He said, "My old friend, you know by now these things don't rattle me. I'll be talking very publicly about this today," meaning the midterms. "I woke up reinvigorated to once again spend a year demoralizing otherwise jubilant Democrats. Stay tuned. We'll see." Jesse, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two Way. Let everybody know where you are and what's on your mind for Sean and Dan.
Good morning. I am in Northern Virginia, so right down the street from Sean. I've been watching y'all for about a year and a half now. I'm a conservative. I don't really identify with one party or the other. And I can go more into that later if you guys want. One thing that I wanted to talk about, something that connects to what y'all were talking about the past few days. And I think it connects into the election last night. And I think Dan kind of has picked up on some of these points. I think one thing that's happening here is all the stuff that was going on with the Tucker, Fuentes, some of these op-eds, the conversations, the Candace Owens, all these things. There's this sort of vibe in the independent sphere that the left, for all that's happened, is somehow more normal than that. And I think one big reason is because a lot of what they're espousing on this fringe right belief is a lot of very anti-pluralistic, very aggressive ideologies. And I think this actually, I know you guys talked about it and you've debated whether or not this is a real thing. I think it is a real thing. And I think it's something that seriously will impact Vance in the next election, because he is not just close with some of these people, but he shares a lot of similar base ideology beliefs, like not like just, oh, he's a Republican or he's on a rally with them. Like he shares a lot of similar philosophical beliefs to some of these people, and he's never really been able to distance himself from it. And he's never been able to really explain why he feels those ways. And I think a lot of it, like I said, a lot of it is based in this, there's like a religious undertone to it too, which is something I can get into, but I don't think there's enough time to like why I think this is all blowing up now, which Mark, I know, has asked a million times. But I think this is something that's a serious threat to his campaign moving forward. And I think everybody kind of is like aware of it under the surface. And you can see in the chat, you can see when you talk to people, they're like, Rubio would be a lot more able to deal with these things, but no one wants to really challenge the kingmaker, which is Trump. So
let's let the guys respond. Sean.
I think, well, look, the one thing I mean, obviously it's our job to kind of to do a lot of this analysis and look, but I think one of the things that I've always noticed over time is style, especially in politics, matters, right? So if you think about a lot of the bigger issues, there's general agreement on 85% of them. How you present them, how you present yourself as a champion of them matters. And I think that's what makes JD in particular so effective. Trump does these sit-down interviews. But if you look at what JD did at that Turning Point USA event in Mississippi the other day, he goes out there and engages in a very authentic, impactful way, an effective way. And I think that's what's different about him, how he presents himself. If you go back to Kamala Harris getting that question on The View, what makes you different? I mean, you don't have to go out there. And I mean, this is why I was sort of disagreeing with Dan. I don't think you have to go out and say, I disagree on these 5 issues. That's not necessarily what people are about. JD's talked about his faith and his approach to life and his family. That's the style matters. And I think that's how I think you're going to see a big difference in presentation as we head forward.
Dan.
Winning campaigns have both their base and independence. And you can't have Tucker Carlson sitting in your box at the convention, smiling, practically holding hands, and then turn around and say, nope, doesn't speak for anything. I mean, both parties with their bases, it's a problem, right? I mean, winning candidates find a way to finesse that. It'll be our challenge to have Mamdani and Abigail Spanberger in the same tent. It's going to be there now that this stuff's bubbling up. Trump figured it out. We'll see if JD Vance can.
Okay. Jesse, thank you. I'm just so fixated on so many questions about how Mamdani is going to behave during the transition, how he'll behave in office. Will he continue to do social media? All these policy questions, getting along with the governor, the city council. Will he pick a Senate, anoint someone to be the head of the council? There's a million questions. The question of how he's going to treat Jewish voters, top of mind right now for two things. First, here's an email I just got from one of you, community member. I don't understand why Mamdani wouldn't reach out to Jewish voters during his speech last night. As a former New Yorker, I found it disheartening that he listed Yemeni bodega owners, Mexican abuelas, Uzbeki nurses, and Ethiopian aunties, but not one mention of a Jew. He says he's for every New Yorker. And then this tweet from a Republican member of Congress, I think the only Republican who represents part of New York City. Brooklyn's Jewish community wakes up to 2 swastikas at Magen David Yeshiva in Gravesend, which is in Brooklyn. While the Hate Crimes Division investigates, the mayor-elect must unequivocally condemn this hateful graffiti. Time to represent and protect all New Yorkers. Dan, what should he do? What will he do?
I believe he is anti-Nazi, so I believe he will condemn this. And look, he had a night last night where he thanked the people who were part of his coalition. He did. He didn't say anti-Israel stuff. He just did not reach out to the Jewish community. So he did from June through October. We all talked about this. He was meeting behind the scenes. It was in the New York Times. It was everywhere. His campaign was making it known that he was reaching out. Now we're going to see, what did Barack Obama call him about? Staffing a government and actually governing and getting stuff done. Let's see if he reaches out. Let's see how he tries to build the Big Tent.
Wouldn't it be great if he went to that synagogue right now and met with the congregation?
Absolutely, and do a video and stand there with rabbis. And I don't think he's going to turn his back on the Jewish community. He may not be their strongest champion, but I would be surprised. Look, my bet is he wants to be reelected. I know, but I'm being serious.
No, I know, but I get it. That's why I said earlier. No, but I said this
you
earlier.
won by this much.
Right,
it would
but
not
Dan,
take a lot to lose.
So, I mean, you look at that was my point earlier. Not that whether he should or shouldn't be saying and doing certain things, that if you're 32 years old and you want a future, here's what's smart politically, not what you have to do. And I agree, he could tee off on everybody, call Trump whatever he wants. But if you actually think to yourself, how do I do this? It's starting to say, wow, I'm a guy who can work with the business community. The Jewish community shouldn't be that bad. These are smart political things, not, again, he could say, I'm going to do exactly what Trump does. God bless him. Go for it. Here's the difference, to Mark's point. Anyone can condemn this, right? And they should. What Nicole Malliotakis just put up there. But the broader point is, you're now the mayor. You have to care about their safety and security. And the idea, I walk by a Jewish synagogue right down the street from me probably 4 times a week, and there's a cop car, a sheriff's car outside there now all the time. The idea that Jews have to worry about their safety going to synagogue is unacceptable. And if you're now going to become the mayor, it's not just about condemning a swastika on there. It's talking about what you are going to do to make sure that they feel safe in their city and that you're not going to be part of the reason that they have to be unsafe. So I think he's got a lot to do. To Mark's point, he should go there. He should have a meeting. He should be very clear that I am going to utilize the resources that are now available to me as mayor to make sure that your safety and security are unequivocally unquestionable when it comes to practicing your faith.
I agree, but by the way, guys, this is why the Fuentes the Tucker thing is such a big deal too.
Yeah. I've got two sources now saying that he is going to have a big tent. The first deputy mayor he's going to announce is Nick Fuentes for a broad coalition of. Yeah. All right, Sean, what do you have this evening?
Obviously, we'll break down the elections. Mark Mitchell, the head pollster at Rasmussen, will be joining us tonight. And then we'll talk with Curtis Houck of the managing editor of Media Research Center Newsbusters about some of the media coverage. And we're actually going to delve into Corinne Jean-Pierre's concerns about how she's being treated on her book. Yeah. Again.
Box office. Dan, anything you want to share?
No, I just have a question for both of you guys quickly. Trump likes to change the tune. What do we think Trump might do in the next 48 hours to try to move this off the headlines?
He's doing the filibuster and voting fraud.
Well, he's going to announce the big arch coming into D.C. from.
and his interview with Brett. Okay, I'm on Smirconish in a moment. I told you I'm on Brett Baer later. Meghan McCain at noon. Citizen McCain welcomes Medal of Honor recipient, New York Times bestselling author Dakota Meyer. Join Meghan at noon today here on Two Way. 5 o'clock today. We're doing the show early on the Two Way platform. It'll stream live at 6 o'clock on YouTube. But 5 o'clock today, we're recording Two Way tonight with full coverage of everything the president's doing today. And again, if you want to be part of the conversation, please join us at 5 o'clock Eastern time today. Sorry, I'm scrolling through here because my phone hiccuped. Great guest. If you haven't seen her on Two Way before anywhere else, and I've always have trouble saying her name because I'm not good at reading. Yemisi, thank you. Yemisi Egbowale. Incredible former official in the Biden administration. Please join us at 6. And then Bridget at 7, Real America. What makes a good man? Masculinity and the impact of fatherlessness. Join Bridget here on the Two Way platform at 7 Eastern. Grateful to you all for joining. Have a great day, and we'll be back in 23 hours with this program. Thank you all.